Cash tags here. We got the co-host of Fast Market, Kevin Hinks, and joining us is the co-founder of LikeFolio.com, Andy Swan, and of course our very own Evelyn Baker. Evelyn, we're talking Chewy. This is an earnings play, but also one that's near and dear to many of our hearts. So many of us adopting and getting our furry friends over the last year as a result of COVID. And so a lot of us actually are users of this potential service here, which is an online pet retailer.
Hi, Alex. Right. So Chewy is everything pets, all online. They have that great auto ship feature which so many of its customers do rely on in order to get their pets medicine, food, toys, and everything on a regular time shipped to their house. So it was great for the pandemic as so many more people were staying at home, getting more pets. But also now that things are going back to normal, people still have those same pets at home. So Chewy's customers aren't really going anywhere in that sense, but they do have earnings today after markets close, and they're expected to see a per share loss of about 2 cents for the quarter. After turning their first quarterly profit in the previous term, but that would still be up from the negative 12 cents that they posted as a loss in EPS the same quarter last year. But their revenue is expected to rise by about 31% year over year, up to $2.12 billion. But I have some quick stats that I wanted to run through that I got from the American Pet Products Association about just how much money is spent on pets in the U.S. So in 2020, it was $103.6 billion with pet food and treats, making up the majority of that spending. And in 2021, it's estimated that $109.6 billion will be spent on our pets in the U.S. I even saw another stat online that said that more U.S. households have pets than kids, and that 80% of pet owners say they treat their pets like their own children. And that brings me to 2 tweets that I have for you today, guys, that really speaks to that point. My first tweet says that Amazon is famous for being customer obsessed, but within pet, Chewy beat Amazon at its own game. Chewy sends pet birthday cards and free pet paintings. If a pet dies, Chewy sends sympathy cards and flowers. Chewy became a $33 billion company by serving pet parents, not pet owners. Another tweet that I have for you guys really drives this first tweet home, I think. And this Twitter user said, I told my dogs I would make sure to put more treats in the next Chewy auto ship, and I totally forgot. Now all they're getting is food. Worst mom ever. Chewy actually responded to this tweet and said that they DM'd the user who initially posted that. So there's another bonus point for their customer service. And that is the question that I want to ask the LikeFolio crew today here is actually how these Chewy mentions get broken down, because the amount of times that I see people on social media talking about Chewy's customer service specifically, it seems like that company is a real standout in that regard. Do you see that coming up specifically on the LikeFolio data?
Yeah, we do. When we look at Chewy mentions, versus peers especially, it's quite a difference. Chewy is near 80% positive in terms of the total mentions that we see, and that is really high. It's 15 points higher than most of their competitors. Really a standout in the space. And I think, Evelyn, that your sample tweets are pretty reflective of the typical type of conversation we're seeing around Chewy.
Yeah, Andy, when I focus on Chewy, when I think about how this company will flourish, and again, your auto ship subscription mentions, I think, is key here, because what better way to build a customer base, what better way to bring in consistent revenue than auto ship? And I can't imagine a scenario where people go on auto ship as long as there's not some breakdown in the system that they don't love it, right? I'm sure they make little tweaks to it, but they probably love it. And so, the fact that your auto ship, and obviously, I'd like to know how you guys think about why it is so volatile. I mean, that this auto ship, the spikes are pretty substantial, but like we've said on the show before, Andy, it's still settling significantly higher than pre-pandemic. So there is, correct me if I'm wrong, there is that stickiness. Even if it's not 100%, there's still a bunch of stickiness here, and that's got to be favorable for Chewy, Andy.
Yeah, when you look at the chart like we saw, like you just showed on auto ship mentions for Chewy, that's really talking about people signing up for that auto ship service, and you can think of it as signing up for a subscription. So every time you see a spike, that's a bunch of new customers that will be on essentially, in theory, forever. And so that is building the base of a subscription type of model. It's one of the things, quite frankly, that LikeFolio neglected to see early on in our analysis of Chewy. Those subscription type of models can really work, because when we look at Chewy from a full company perspective and look at the growth rate, the amount of people talking about Chewy is actually grown at fairly low levels compared to what it was before. But when you combine that with what's going on with AutoShip and realize that a lot of those people are turning themselves into automatic monthly, automatic quarterly customers of this company, it really changes the game. It's kind of like a Netflix type of approach. And so you have to look at it through that lens. So I think, from our perspective, Chewy's growth rate looks to be slowing, but that doesn't mean that revenue is slowing. In fact, it probably means that revenue is picking up quite a bit, because they already have a cohort of users that are automatically paying them every single month, every single quarter. And so Chewy's a tough one going into earnings. I think this is a really tough company to understand. The short interest on this company is very high, kind of like a Stitch Fix. A lot of people betting against this company. So there's always that, that potential of a real spark to the upside if they can put a good number together. So overall, from LikeFolio perspective, growth slowing, but the business model really makes up for that in a lot of significant ways.
Andy, Chewy still has dominance over Amazon in the pet space, but I'm wondering, since Amazon is such a larger company and they are able to offer things to their customers like free shipping for their Prime members, in which Chewy is not able to do yet because it is such a smaller company, what's standing in the way of these larger competitors, including even a Petco, which also just re-IPO'd, from just boosting up their customer service and taking over Chewy's market dominance?
Well, I think it's really hard to turn yourself from a logistics and fulfillment company into a customer service company. I think customer service a lot of times has to be embedded in the DNA of the company from the very beginning, and it's really difficult to instill that in large companies going forward. We've seen a lot of companies try, but it tends to be companies that are organically, from their very creation, customer service focused at the beginning, that tend to hold on to that the longest period of time, and very difficult for larger competitors to even try to compete. The systems just get in the way, the meetings get in the way, the bureaucracy gets in the way, the profit margins get in the way. It's a tough transition to make.
Absolutely. Andy, quick question. When we're talking Chewy, it's hard not to acknowledge this successful kind of approach to the first tweet that Evelyn mentioned, which is kind of taking Amazon's model but almost executing on it stronger. The branding they have on their packaging is as bold and easy to see as any I've noticed. But my biggest concern with this kind of a company, I know you don't analyze demographics, but you have great market insights and great instincts on this stuff as an entrepreneur. Are they a little bit more niche than we're realizing? Is this something that's going to be very, very urban focused? What's to stop someone as inflation potentially picks up, the cost of goods and services come up, that's in a more suburban area, not to just drive to the store when they're going to the store, throw the pet food, throw the treats in there, and just drive it out on the cart to their car? To me, this is a quality of life company that really favors those who maybe don't have cars, that live in an urban city center, and they don't have to think about it. It just comes on the auto ship, and they don't have to lug it home from the store over their shoulder. Am I on to something here, or is there more to this, and the customer service is just so good that people are going to stay customers with Chewy even if prices continue to go higher?
Yeah, well, I think the answer is both. The customer service is so good, the convenience is so good. I don't know many people, that really want to carry a 40-pound bag of dog food from the aisle to the cashier to their car, from their, to their front porch. So Chewy puts it right on the front porch and you deal with it from there. So people really love that. And I don't see that going away anytime soon. But I do think that you make a great point when it comes to price sensitivity. I think that's yet to be determined. And I think that just like the convenience is a boost for Chewy, not wanting to carry that 30 or 40 pound bag of dog food every month, it's also potentially their biggest risk factor, because also UPS, FedEx, the shippers don't necessarily want to carry 40-pound bags all around, and will be charging more and more for that as energy prices and so on increase. And so I think that there is significant risk to their business model because of the size of the packages that they deliver at low price points that isn't there for other consumer goods and other things that Amazon ships and so on. So I think there is a lot to that. I think we'll have to watch. We haven't seen any real big pushback on Chewy's pricing at any point yet in LikeFolio data, but as soon as we do, you guys at Fast Market will be the first to know.
Andy, one last thing, because from a trading perspective, I can't help but notice, and I don't know if you guys get data on this or you have any take on this at all, but I think it's a key part of the way we're going to trade Chewy, which is, they had, last quarter was the first time that their earnings has gone positive. Is this a company, I look back at the past earnings, they were small negatives. This company is clearly growing. But is this company on the verge of becoming profitable? Because I think when it does, when it gets to that inflection point where the earnings go from, growth company and negative earnings to a company that's actually starting to earn money per quarter, I think that's a game changer for a stock. Do you know if we're getting close to that, if they plan on, or you could envision them having positive earnings again this quarter?
Yeah, it's one of those things, Kevin, where I think it's a double-edged sword. You want to see profitability in a company, but at the same time, it can also signal that the company does not believe it's investing in its own growth anymore. And so it can take itself out of the category of growth stock and into the category of being, marked to profitability, and the ratios can really change when you do that. And so I think that probably this is one of those companies like Amazon that's going to spend a lot more time around the break-even mark through its years of growth as possible. I don't think that they're probably dying to get extraordinarily profitable right now. I think it's all about market share, market grab, and then continuing, like we said before, through auto ship and through their extremely effective customer service methods to increase revenue per user over time. I think that is the key to their long-term growth, and getting as many customers in the basket before they do that is probably the right move, and what I think they'll probably be focused on for quite a while.
Great breakdown, great conversation as always. The co-founder of LikeFolio.com, Andy Swan, and our very own Evelyn Baker. Thanks for joining us to both of you. Kev,